Hey yo, what's poppin' guys? It's your boy FizzleTheHizzle, aka Ben here, bringing guys the NCL Week 3 battle against Matt and the Green Bay Golisopods. If you haven't checked out my team builder, definitely go check it out. It went up yesterday, or should have at least. We're bringing some wacky stuff, man, and we have such a tough matchup, and I'm terrified of his threats. He brought a really scary team here, and looking forward to have a good battle. And this was a really good battle, honestly. Towards the end, it was really good. He played well, and it got pretty tight at some points. So yeah, looking at his team, he brings a Jellicent, the Snorlax, Raikou, the Zardex, of course, the Gligar, and the Cobalion. Now at this point, I was thinking that he either had rocks on Gligar or the Cobalion. So I wanted to get my rocks up first and lead with Aerodactyl, just so I can get up rocks. And the best thing that Gligar can do to me is like Toxic, and I didn't really think Cobalion would lead, but it ends up working out for me as I misclick and I actually lead Buzzwole, which is perfectly fine by me because he leads with Cobalion, and that's just a free substitute. And at this point, I don't know if he's special or physical, and at this point, I'm assuming that he's physical because he can't really touch me, and he sees to not, or he reveals to not have Volt Switch rather. And I just go for the Toxic here, just to whittle this thing down. That's the whole point of this set. And I go into my Clefable here because I know I can take any Scald or Shadow Ball that I want to go for. And I go for the Moonblast here, and I get Special Attack Drop, which doesn't matter. And at this point, I know that he's not going to go for an Earthquake, so I just go hard into my Gengar to try to trick it. I could have gone into my Aerodactyl, but I really wanted to preserve health on that for Megazord X. But instead, he doubles down to Jellicent as I trick the incoming Snorlax. So this is basically crippled. If he had like a setup set, it was basically done for. And I go into my Aerodactyl, try to set up rocks, but I can't because Jellicent's right there. As he goes into his own Clefable, and at this point, I'm like, oh man, he's going to go for rocks. But instead he goes for a Toxic, which is a really good play, because he knows in this matchup that I have to be unaware, and going for a Toxic there was a really good play. I was thinking that he would either go for the Toxic, and I almost went Gengar, but it didn't really do anything for me. And he would either go for rocks, seeing that I have a Houndoom and an Aerodactyl, and it's pretty good for chipping down my Buzzwole, as it's revealed to have Sub and stuff. And if he gets a Toxic up on that, that'd be really good. Or Toxic, and instead he goes for Toxic, because this thing really punishes whatever he wants to go for. If he wants to get up rocks, I SD in front of this thing's face. As he goes for the Earthquake, gets some 26% off on me. Decides to SD again, seeing that Outrage, +2 Outrage does not kill a Gligar. And he decides to sack the Snorlax. At this point, it was good for him to sack off the Snorlax because it was basically crippled. And it was really unfortunate that I didn't have Earthquake, because I would have gone for it and I wouldn't have to be locked into Outrage. But he reveals to be Life Orb on Raikou and go for the Shadow Ball. And we see that he does have coverage for the Gengar. And Volt Switch does a trillion, man, as I Moonblast here, because it was pretty free. He didn't have a Snorlax in the way of doing anything, and if he went into Charizard, I can always T-Wave that, so that's fine by me. And instead I go for a Moonblast here, and I go for a Protect, scouting a Z-move. And at this point I didn't see Leftovers or Life Orb after this, so I was assuming he was Z-move. But instead he doesn't reveal to be Z-move, which was good on his part. I thought he was going to conserve the Z-move, and he takes down my Clefable pretty easily. And I go into my Gengar here because it was my only chance to, it was the only thing on my team that wanted to take, or that could take a Cobalion hit. Everything else died. Buzzwole was a roll to die, but Gengar had a better time to live, or a better chance to live a Z Flash Cannon, and bringing Special is definitely good on his part. And he doesn't reveal to be Z at all. And I do take him out with the Shadow Ball, which is really good for me, because that would have gone so badly. As I heal up with my leftovers, I didn't want to take Chip on anything else, so I just stay in. And Life Orb Chip on this means that it gets put in range of a Houndoom after Life Orb Chip. And I do go for my Fire Blast, win the Speed Tie. And he goes for Volt Switch, trying to risk his Speed Tie. And that's really good that I won the Speed Tie, because Raikou, a huge threat, is gone now. And right here I go for Taunt, because if he sets up a DD in my face, I lose the game straight up. And I wanted to get damage off on this thing to put it in range of Stone Edge from Aerodactyl. And this thing, I didn't need my Houndoom to break the Gligar, because I know that my Buzzwole could 1v1 it every single time. So I didn't really need to preserve Houndoom at that point. And then it was just so worth it for me just to go for Taunt. Because if he D-dances here, I believe I die to a +1 Outrage from Charizard. And it's a roll to live, I believe, a D-Claw, because he can be adamant, like I said before. So we can't see that he's adamant or anything right now with the damage that he's dealt. But just staying in was always my play. I couldn't let this thing set up and win the game. And I go into my Aerodactyl and Stone Edge, and I try to scout the damage, what kind of set this thing was. And he goes for, or I go for my Rock, trying to force him to defog. And if he doesn't defog, it really pressures Charizard X, put him in range of a Drain Punch from this thing, for whatever reason, and to make it so that he can't really roost off the damage. And at this point, I didn't expect him to have roost anyway, but it puts me in a really good position just to make him lose momentum, and it gives me so much. He does go for the Toxic, which is pretty annoying, but the damage at this point isn't enough to matter, because Zard X never kills me with a Dragon Claw, even at 94%. And if he ends up getting rocks on his end, I just kill the Charizard anyway. And I go into my Buzzwole because I know I can 1v1 this thing. I'm a very fast Buzzwole, as he does go for the defog, trying to preserve health on his Charizard X. And I just go for the sub right here, because if he wants to go Jellicent, I can just stall this thing out all day with Toxic and Substitute. And I am very speedy, of course. I can outspeed Gligar with little to no investment, and I'm like 250 or like 200-ish EVs in speed, so I decided to go a little stally here. Ice Punch was my best way to hit this thing, of course, and I decided to go for sub because I knew he had to recover at some point, because this was his best switch in to a Gligar, or to an Aerodactyl rather. So I go for the Ice Punch because it's the only thing I have, and I saw him out of Toxic turns, and he gets really low with this, and this is really good for me because I'm basically 1v1ing something that usually walls Buzzwole with a Buzzwole, so that's really good for me. I don't have T-Punch because I needed Drain Punch for recovery, obviously, and Stab. So that's really good for me. And at some point, he had to go for the Recover to preserve health. And it's right here he goes for the Taunt, which really sucks because that means that I can't... which, I mean, it doesn't impact the late game that much, but going for Taunt right there was a good play to ensure that I can't sub after he has, gone for a move. So, and I obviously outspeed this thing anyway, so if I Ice Punch there and he breaks my sub, that's a free switch into Zardex. So my only play here was to hard switch into Aerodactyl, unfortunately, and force the Gligar in, because I'd rather have Gligar in than my Charizard X. And I can roost all over the Gligar, saying as he can't touch me, his best way to touch me is this Toxic. And he can go for Rocks if he wants to, but that doesn't put me in range of Aerodactyl, or put me in range of Earthquake from Gligar. So I just go for Roost a couple of times to get my health up, seeing what he wants to do. And he ends up spamming Toxic, which was a good play on his end. He goes for Earthquake there for some reason. And Toxic was just the best play on his end, just spamming it in case I went hard into a Buzzwole like I did last time. But I knew he would try to do that, so no way I'm switching out right, even though I'm getting shed by Toxic. This was always my play to stay in on the Gligar and just Roost stall it out, because it can't touch me either. It probably has Roost at this last slot, and I do end up killing the Stone Edge. I go for a Roar right there, because if I go for my Rocks and then Defog, that's just way more chip with Toxic than I ever need. So I figured going for Roar was a better option and force him into the Charizard X. And at that point, it was like a 50-50 on whether he stayed in or went into Gligar, and if I doubled back into Buzzwole. So it was like a true 50-50 on that turn, and I ended up making the correct play because I do kill the Charizard X, and at this point, I win the game. I go for Stone Edge, get a crit, unfortunately, which doesn't really matter in the end, because Ice Punch Buzzwole always 2-shots, so I let my Aerodactyl go die. I let my Aerodactyl die, of course, and I Ice Punch here, because in case I subbed up anyone for Toxic, I die. Or I'm in a really bad position and I can't kill with Ice Punch, so I just 2-shot it with Ice Punch. And that's going to seal the deal. Jura putting in work, sub-Toxic set, putting in so much work against the Jellicent. So that was really good, showcasing that. I played really awkwardly around with the Garchomp, because if I had Garchomp, I could pressure things like the Jellicent, Charizard, Gligar late game much better. But unfortunately he did Toxic the Garchomp, so it was really hard for me to pivot around that and play around that. And unfortunately I did have Outrage and I didn't have Earthquake. If I had Earthquake, I was in such a good position. But you know, you got to play with the cards you're dealt. No Bulu really threw me off. And yeah, man, that was just a great game by Matt. I had a ton of fun this match. So anyway, we are now 3-0 plus 9. We are second in the league, I believe. Or second in the division, I mean. We're right behind Jed, who is 2 points differential higher than us, because he did get a big win over Ace. So, yeah, man, we are now 3-0. We play Jay, who is 2-1, I believe. He picked up a big 6-0 win against Jamesy. So it's going to be a good one, and I'm looking forward to that battle. Thank you guys so much for watching. It means the world to me, and like always, have a swell day.